Judge Gall has not lifted the gag order, so we're not going to be able to make any type of public statement at this point. We'll be looking forward to having something scheduled a month from now following sentencing. So with that, that's all that we're going to be able to say at this time. So thank you very much.
Guys, there was only one place I wanted to come this morning, and that is the contemplation log. Not been here for a while because I haven't needed to contemplate this hard for a while. So here I am to talk about the duping delight of Delphi. Yeah. So unless you've been living under a rock, if you've been following the Delphi case for the last almost 8 years, you will know that Richard Matthew Allen was convicted on all counts of murder yesterday after between 17 and 19 hours of deliberating. The jury came back with a full house guilty. You know, the trials that I've covered recently, Lilani Simon, Sarah Boone, we've got Megan Boswell coming up in February of next year. Megan Boswell obviously hasn't happened yet, but by the end of the trial I was confident that the prosecution had done enough. Karen Reid is someone who I wholly 100% believe is innocent. Her trial resulted in a hung jury and she's going to be retried next year. But Richard Allen, when Richard Allen was arrested, I thought, great, they've got him. But as the months tick by, as the years tick by, as more and more came out, I thought there's something really wrong here. There's something really wrong in this case. And how right was I? There is something incredibly wrong. If you believe that Rick Allen was guilty, I can't see how, knowing what we know, given that there's been no cameras allowed in the court and it's just been shrouded in secrecy, based on what we know, I can't see how anybody could say he was guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. The secrecy has hindered the case. It's encouraged conspiracy theories, and it's left a lot of lingering doubts in the minds of a lot of people who actually believe that Rick Allen is the guy.
Well, and it's a good thing that we had you in there, because even what we're rolling right now on the side, this is file video. We don't even know what he looks like right now. We don't know if he's put on a bunch of weight. You know, the public is really flying blind in the execution of this justice. Jesse Weber, when you went to law school, I'm sure that this wasn't what you expected. I'm sure that you didn't think that the public would be shut out of a public process. This is why America's great. We have transparent justice. I have been to countries where it is not so. I saw gulag justice and hooded justice in Iraq and Afghanistan. I have seen the way it can be. I'm starting to feel that way now. And I'm assuming this isn't the norm that you're used to.
Talking to a guy who covers live trials all the time. Am I biased? Yes. But by a constitutional right, the public and the media should know what our justice system looks like, particularly with criminal trials. And let me tell you what happens when you shut off the public, when you shut off cameras, when you don't allow any information to come out. People come out with conspiracy theories. They come out with rumors. And that is incredibly dangerous. You know the first time I saw that? I saw that in cases like the Harvey Weinstein trial, when we were the last line of defense. Reporters in that courtroom actually being like stenographers, trying to give a play-by-play of what was happening. Because if you didn't have the opportunity to have cameras in there, we're the only way to do that. And having cameras in there, having people explain what's happening in that case, it is so imperative. I think it's an injustice. And unfortunately, this gag order, no cameras, they're going to stay in there through the sentencing. And I get the counter argument, right? You don't want to jeopardize Richard Allen's rights because he might have an appellate issue. He might be convicted and then raise some issue about somebody saying something or a piece of information being leaked. I get it. But at the same time, with so much at stake in this case and so much interest in this case, I think we all had a right to know what was going on.
Some dude from the Indiana State Police came out and spoke to some reporters yesterday and said the gag order's still in place until the sentencing, which is going to be just in time for Christmas on the 20th of December. Just in time for Christmas. Great. Yeah. Kathy Allen, her family were absolutely distraught. This was never going to be a happy day. Never going to be a happy day. Even though I'm quite sure investigators were congratulating themselves, and Nick McClellan, the prosecutor, is truly the man of the hour. But yeah, as the years tick by, I thought, why are they doing this? Why are they doing this? And we know, the jury knows, that Rick Allen was tortured. He was tortured. How could the jury not see? How could they not see what the defence was trying to prompt them toward? Because if you believe he's guilty, then why was there no solid case? Over the last few hours, people have been in my comment section saying that I'm gross, that I'm the worst true crime channel on the internet, and that I'm done. Well, guess what? That person got banned. I'm starting my ban list again. Because during the Lilani Simon trial, when I accidentally banned Gemma, and I couldn't work out how to unban her on her own, I just unbanned everyone on the channel. So I'm starting the ban list again. I'm happy for people to not share my opinion, but you can't come here and be rude. It's as simple as that. You can't come here and be rude. But what went wrong? Well, we know absolutely what went wrong. That the deck was stacked totally against the defence. All the things, pretty much all the things that they wanted to include. Third party culpability. No nexus, said Francis Gull, because there's no DNA of the suspects at the scene. Free Richard Allen then, because there's no DNA from him either at the scene. We know that there is DNA, but what was found, a full profile couldn't be developed, but yet there's samples that have never been tested. And the defence can't do that. They had the budget slashed. She said no to loads of testing. So it's not surprising that their experts didn't have reports and stuff. They couldn't mention any of the third party suspects, even though Elvis Fields confessed. He confessed to his sisters. Is this ringing any bells? Said to his sister, do you want my coat? A blue coat? Do you want my coat? He said, no, I've got a coat, thank you. He confessed to a police officer. Nothing was done. Nothing was followed up. The FBI were given their marching orders in 2021. They weren't allowed to include the testimony of Todd Click, who was one of the guys who investigated Ordinism, until 2021, when Greg Ferenczi was murdered. Insert space here for, do you wonder whether Greg Ferenczi was murdered for a reason? Just insert that here. I'm not saying that. Insert that here if you so see fit. What more can I say? What more can I say? Kegan Kline confessed. Now, he's a big fat liar, but Kegan Kline confessed. Said he knew what happened. He waited in his dad's red Jeep while his dad murdered the girls. They spent $1 million on search of the Wabash River, based on what Kegan Kline told them. Did the jury hear any of that? No. They weren't allowed to present the geofencing because Nick McClellan didn't like it. Why? Because Rick Allen, his phone wasn't there, was it? No. Ron Logan's was. He was also a suspect that had been investigated by the FBI, who lied. Brad Weber lied. So the murder sheet coming here and saying this completely disgusts me.
Richard Allen's detailed confession to a psychologist in which he mentioned a white van. So that basically is a concrete anchoring point where he's saying, I saw this, and then the prosecution was able to produce the driver of the van along with timestamps showing he would have been driving that way that day. At the same time, just the basic fact that Richard Allen was consistently putting himself everywhere where Bridge Guy was cited was going to be something that was going to be difficult for him to overcome.
We all know that the van has been mentioned for years. Brad Weber lied. He either lied in 2017 or he lied under oath in the trial. But they weren't allowed to bring the witness who could confirm what Brad Weber said in February of 2017, because the witness needed to appear by video conferencing, but Gull wouldn't allow it. Is there any wonder why people who believe he's guilty still have questions? I personally believe is factually innocent. I don't think they've got anything against him. The unspent round, that was one of the experts that Gull said, no, not going to fund. They had to crowdfund to pay their experts. And they had to cut corners. One thing I do wish the defence had talked about, and I think this is a mistake, a big mistake, that in closing arguments, I wish that Brad Rosie had really hammered home the timeline, because the timeline that the state has laid down does not work. I was just hoping that the jury would work it out, but obviously not, because if they had, I don't think they could have gone with guilty. I don't think they could. I hope jurors speak out. They can speak out now if they want. They're released. You know, when I was a juror on a murder trial in 2020, the first thing I did after I got out of the courthouse, they did the sentencing straight away. Like, we rendered our verdict before lunch, we had lunch, and then he came back with the sentencing straight away. Like, he spent the lunch break making his, like the judge spent the lunch break making his speech. And we got out of the courthouse maybe mid-afternoon, maybe like 3ish, and I was on the bus on the way home googling the very people that I'd just put away. And imagine being a juror on the Delphi case who did that this morning, who did that yesterday. Imagine. You know, I believe that they did what they could. I believe that they did the best they could with the information they had. And there are certain things that I can't understand how they could say he's guilty based on the confessions. You know, people think it's the confessions and then the van. Now, they won't know about the van until they dig. But the confessions, I don't know how people can say he confessed. But then again, Nick McClelland didn't talk about all the confessions that Rick Allen made. You know, they got his sister and his daughter on the stand to say, no, we weren't molested, because that was one of his confessions. Molested some boys, apparently. No one's ever heard of that. But then again, he said he killed his whole family. He said he killed his grandchildren. Said he killed his whole family. He said that he buried Abby and Libby in a shallow grave after shooting them in the back. Did the jury hear those confessions? No, because they didn't fit with the state's narrative. So again, I do believe the jury did the best based with the information they had. And I respect their verdict. However, it's the wrong one, because the defence couldn't play the hand they wanted to play. And I do believe there was a big mistake at the end in not attacking the timeline minute by minute. But it took me days to work it out, and maybe the defence just didn't. So what's next? Well, appeals lawyers are talking. There's going to be an appeal. But these appeals, they can take years. You've got to go through the appeals court, and then if no joy there, it's got to go to the Indiana Supreme Court. I've heard that like 10% of people who appeal get anywhere, like get a new trial or... But, you know, if you got a new trial, who's to say that the same outcome wouldn't happen again? I just feel so utterly demoralised this morning. And there's people today with Duper's Delight in Delphi. No justice for these two beautiful girls. No justice. How can they rest in peace knowing what we know? Anyway, guys, I'm done.